All right, welcome back. So before we start sending this stuff forward, I want to actually go back to looking at the full uh, definition stuff because I think we can pull some more stuff out. So I'm going to take the end off of there with datum, come back to here. And one of the things I noticed is I would like to get the part of speech, which is marked under FL. I had to Google it. It says it means functional label potentially. VD is something else, transitive verb. So that tells whether it's transitive, intransitive, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we're going to use the functional label, and we might end up pulling more stuff. I don't know. But what I want to do is make it scalable. So what I would like to do is create a type to associate with this. So inside of source, outside of app, we're going to put types. And then inside of here, we're going to put word.tsx. And we could even use this to add synonyms later if we wanted to. Sorry, not tsx.ts. There's no JSX in here. Export type word equals, and then name, which is going to be the name of the word. And then definitions, we know, is going to be a string. But actually, definitions is going to also contain the part of speech, because the same word can have a noun and a verb form. So we're actually going to create another type here. And this one shouldn't need to be exported. This is just going to be type definition. And then this will be like, we'll say, I guess, definitions. And that's going to be a string array. So lowercase string. There we go. So the thing about this is this single verb has several short definitions here. So these are all verbs, definition verbs. So this isn't really a single definition. It's more like a definition per part of speech, but I don't really know how to name that accurately. So we'll just call it this. And then up here, we're going to change this from string now to definition. And we'll call it definition like this. And then we're going to add the part of speech, which is going to be a string. Okay. And then we can scale this up as needed. But the other thing I need to do is be able to map from JSON. So we're going to export a function called map from JSON. And it's going to pass a raw word in. So something from here. And then we're going to have to figure out how to, so basically this is going to be the datum that we were using. And the type of this will be any, because I don't want to deal with trying to type all of this. This actually ends up causing an error when you try to push to Vercel. So technically we should type this. Maybe we can figure out how to type it near the end. I noticed when I was trying to deploy a project, if I had any of these in there, it didn't like it and it would reject it. You can disable that, but I feel like there are some cases like this where any should be okay. But I mean, we can fix that pretty easily. Actually, let's do that real quick. I'll show you how I approach this. So we'll create another type for raw word. And this, we know that we're going to be getting the short defs, which is going to be string. So it's going to be short def, which is going to be string. And then it's going to be, we're going to be getting the part of speech, which is FL string like that. Or actually, this will be raw def. And then this will be an array of raw definitions, because there's a whole bunch of these for this. So now we know the raw word is going to have a bunch of raw definitions associated with it, at least one. So then what we do is we're going to iterate through that for let I equal 0. I is less than raw, let me change this to raw defs. Raw defs.length I++. There we go. So we're going to iterate through. Or we could map it. Let's map it. That's a little nicer. We might be able to do it all in one thing here. Let's do raw defs dot map raw def, which is we know is going to be of type raw def. Although it can infer that. We don't have to put that because it can infer that. And then inside of here, we're going to be doing the mapping. So it's going to be returning a type. I think I can use curly braces in this case because we know that it's referring to an object. So we know that part of speech is going to be the raw def dot short def. And we know unused label. Let's try this. Put this inside of here. Interesting. There we go. I guess because the curly braces it gets confused, so we'll go and do it this way to be safe. Part of speech, and we know that the definitions are going to be raw def dot short def. Sorry, I did that backwards. This one should be fl.fl. There we go. So this will grab the fl out of the raw JSON, and this will grab the short definition out of the raw JSON, and that will end up giving us. And now we can validate that we're returning the right kind of data by declaring a return type on this function, explicitly stating that this should be returning a word. And we don't have a name here. So this is mapping the raw definitions, but we also need a name associated with this. So this is returning an array of definitions. So this should actually be, yeah, this should be an array. Sorry, it's confusing because we have nested arrays. We have an array of definitions, and then inside of those definitions, that can be an array of definitions associated with that single definition. So this actually should be, we're going to say, we have to pass in the name as well separately. So we're going to say name string. And we're going to say const defs equals this. And then we're going to return name, and definitions defs. How about that? There we go. That's why we did that validation, because I got myself mixed up there. But that looks good. And that's a little bit confusing, but this is hopefully going to work. Let's try this. So now I've got my definition type, and I've got my definition mapper. So let's go back over to our route. And instead of returning this, we're going to be returning, we're going to be importing import word, and what did I call it? Map from JSON. Actually, we should call this word from JSON so it's more specific. And then word from JSON. Okay. And then inside of here, we're going to be returning, I believe, word from JSON, and we'll be passing in the name, which will be the word, and then we'll be passing in the raw definitions, which will be the data, I believe. Let's see how this looks now. And look at that. We got our definitions. We've got name, react, definition, definition, definition. Nice. Part of speech, phrasal verb, verb. Part of speech, noun, noun, yeah. And then the definitions associated with that. That was probably extremely confusing, so you might need to rewind and watch again. I was sort of thinking out loud, but I don't know how easy that was, intuitive that was to follow. But essentially, we're taking this raw definition, and then we're mapping it to this definition, but then we're also adding the name in so that we end up with this really nice looking definition here, definition category. So this is a huge, very important concept when you're working with external APIs. They can often have a lot of extraneous details that we don't really need. So it's very important to spend a good amount of time trying to map, pull the things out that you need and leave the other stuff behind. And you generally do that on the server before you send that to the front end. You don't really want to just send the raw data straight from the API through. So it's good that we're able to get the information presented how we like with the terms that we want to use, rather than following with the Merriam-Webster thing. We say, thank you, Merriam-Webster, you gave us the information we wanted, but we're going to change it and make it work for us. So in the next one, we'll go ahead and bring it forward into the front end.